when her dad was like looking at me and he's like, I remember you like 8 years old running around here and spending the night, and now we're smoking weed together. I was like,
oh
I know, kind of trippy, huh?
All right. Hello, friends.
Hello, friends.
And welcome to Pickles and Vodka, the mental health podcast where imperfect people have imperfect conversations. I'm Christina.
And I'm Lauren.
That was like the most polished tagline we've ever done.
I know, we almost sounded like we should be like in suits and like, I'm about to give a presentation about...
Yes, it's 2023 and we are now expert professionals.
It's 2020. I thought you were going to say it's 2023 and we got our shit together.
Well, essentially, yeah, we have our shit together. We don't have any more problems. We're very cool, calm, and collected.
Yep, we've had our shit together for 7 days, so I'm sure it's going to last the rest of the year.
All right, that's a fucking lie. I can't keep doing this anymore.
Okay.
Well, that's a great segue into where are you at, Lauren? It's been a few weeks since we recorded in person. We had a little break from the podcast, but I know that we haven't had a break from real life.
No. And work is particularly reminding me of that because... of course, I do accounting for them, and the end of the month is always a big time for accountants, and the end of the month plus the end of the year is that times 12. So.
Oh, yeah, I can only imagine.
And I've just got things going on, I feel like, as far as work stuff, that, like I said, it's already like the busiest time, and I feel like once a day I have to tell people something happens, like, oh, our health insurance company decided to just double charge us this month because Lauren doesn't have enough to do. They thought that she should research that too.
Wait, so not only are you dealing with health insurance issues in your personal life, but you're now dealing with health insurance issues at your job?
Now I'm dealing with everyone else's health insurance too.
You just can't get away from it.
No, it sucks.
Life is hilarious like that, isn't it?
Pretty much. But I don't know if that's keeping me busy or what. As far as like where my brain's at, I feel like I've just kind of been floating along on an even keel, not thinking about it too much. So, yeah.
I feel like we should talk about the incident that happened after we recorded. I know you don't want to talk about it. It's kind of a sore subject.
No, so speaking of an extra stress... So, the morning after, I'm going to take Christina back to her hotel. I have a gated parking lot because I live in an area where they tell me it's a rite of passage for your car to be broken in at some point, and I'd like that not to happen, so I pay for the lot. But
it's a nice lot. It's a nice apartment.
Yeah. But I am at a very, like, the most awkward angle in this gate coming out into a narrow alleyway, of course.
Well, first of all, it's like, how cold was it? It was like 10 degrees or something like that.
I don't think it was even that. It was more like -10. My apartment couldn't get past 64.
Yeah, the whole time we were recording that episode, it was 64 degrees inside. And so...
with the heat running 24/7.
Yeah. You can probably hear it in the episode. We won't talk about it.
Yeah, because there's nothing we could do. It would have been like 54 if we had turned it off.
And so I sleep over and we bundle up to go out into the freezing Arctic so she can get me back to the hotel so I can partake in my family reunion activities.
And it had snowed, but there wasn't more than 2 inches on the ground. It didn't feel like it was slippery.
It was sunny. It was beautiful. She walks me into the lot. She's like, check out my car. It's a sick car. And it is a sick
hot,
car.
Or it was. Yeah.
Oh, don't get ahead of yourself. Okay, continue.
Yeah. So I'm pulling out, and like I said, it is the absolute most awkward, tightest angle. So
and
I'm
Pico's with us.
As I usually. Yes.
Pico's with
so I'm
us.
taking it as I usually do, about 2 miles an hour. And somehow, when we get mostly out, then there's this big crunch. And here's where I keep replaying and telling myself I'm an idiot is I felt like there's no way it could have been anything except for slightly scraping the side, and I could possibly just turn out of that, or at worst, the paint scrape would be a little longer. Yeah. What I should have done was just back up. But, so instead, it actually dented in the side of my passenger door quite significantly.
It was loud. It was sudden. We didn't really know what to do.
Yeah.
Pico didn't freak out. He kind of just like stood at attention and like tried to look out the window to see what was going on.
Yeah, see, he probably knew what I should have done. He was probably trying to guide me. Just back up slowly and don't...
You're given a spirit guide in the form of this magical woodland creature, and you're just wasted.
Yes. But unfortunately, he can't talk. Yep.
Yeah, so that happened.
Yes. It looked worse than I was originally hoping, but not as worse as I just got the first estimate, and it's about $5,400 to fix.
Yeah, I feel absolutely terrible about that.
Well, we'll come back in a couple weeks, and I'll find out which is harder to deal with, health insurance or car insurance.
That'll be a fun episode.
Because now, I mean, as usual, like most people, I imagine, you get in a small accident, and you're like, maybe I don't have to involve my insurance, because then my rates are just going to go up. So that's why I was getting the estimate, thinking maybe I can cover it out of pocket, and then I saw that and was like, nope.
Well, see, when I totaled my car, actually almost a year ago today, I did call my insurance right away because I freaked out, and I was taught that that's what you do. You are good and you call insurance. And then they took it to another company, like an approved company, to fix it, and it ended up being crazy expensive still. And then I had it on my record anyway. Like, I couldn't go back and find another estimate because that was the person they chose. So, like, either way, you're fucked.
If anything, I feel like the biggest benefit that I have in all this is I do work for a small insurance agency, and I recently changed over to them. So my coworker is my agent. She's super nice. She's going to help me, all she can. So
yeah, I feel really bad about it because, like, I was the reason that you were leaving the lot in the first place, and I know like it's not,
but you weren't the reason that I hit the gate. Like you weren't like distracting me or anything like that was all me.
I mean, tell that to my brain though. You know how it is. You blame everything on yourself, and you're just like, oh my god.
Like I said, I keep replaying it and being like, you could have done this and it would have been less damage. Why didn't you do that? What?
Yeah, but it happened, and happy fucking New Year.
Yep.
Actually, technically that happened in 2022. Fuck 2022.
That's true. Yeah, I was like, let's get rid of this stupid year.
Well, not all of 2022.
No, but it sure didn't end well for me.
No, me neither, honestly. I was fucking depressed the last few weeks. I'm not feeling as depressed today. I'm feeling pretty good, actually.
I don't know about you, but yeah, I guess one more thing to throw in with how things are going is I forgot about that because it's been so long.
It has been so long. Can I just say, I'm so excited to be recording again.
But I feel like all the extra like time off, I mean, I like it because even if my job's okay, I'm still just like, it's work though. I like having time off, but I felt like it didn't necessarily do me a lot of favors being alone all that time with my own head and my little animals.
It is kind of a relief to go back to your normal life after the holidays.
I lost you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
No.
Oh my god. Hold on.
I lost you.
Okay, you lost me for a second, but I'm back. This is the last time I'll be using my current laptop to record.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I got a new computer yesterday, and it is beautiful. It's the newest iMac. It's the nicest computer I've ever owned in my life. But there's no fucking USB port.
Ugh.
And so I have to find a fucking converter to plug in my microphone to use it for this podcast.
Yeah, I remember the first iPhone I got that didn't have, like the standard little like earphone jack.
Yeah, you had to get the dongle.
Yeah, I went to plug them in and I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Like, everyone is not millionaires with, AirPods. I need to plug my shit in. Yeah.
Oh my god, I just realized Brett got me AirPods for Christmas because he got it in some sort of promotional deal. And then my sister-in-law, as we know, gave me her old iPad, which I attempted to use to read notes on our in-person episode. Right. So I now have an iMac, AirPods, and an iPad. I'm one of those fucking people. But I feel like a fake because I don't know how to use any of them.
That's okay.
Oh, what were we even talking about before I got cut off by my microphone jack?
Where are you at? I feel like I've thoroughly explained it. Do you have more?
Oh, I mean, yeah, like I said, I'm doing pretty good. Oh, yeah, I feel like it's been forever since we talked. I
Yes.
really missed recording this podcast. Like, it was nice to have a little break, but also I missed the routine.
Yeah, I was telling Christina, like, yeah, the break was nice, so it wasn't until maybe like 2 days ago, and that's when it suddenly hit me like, it feels like it's been a year since we've recorded. I
know,
miss
right?
it.
And it feels like, yeah, you were talking about how nice it was to just get back to work and not feel so isolated. And I agree. Like, the holidays is a really hard time of year, and I'm so glad it's over. Even though going back to work sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been good since we last recorded. I dyed my hair green.
I saw that.
I got a keyboard. I got a free keyboard from a friend who was getting rid of her old one. And so I've been practicing piano again. What?
Is it like a full size?
It's a full-size keyboard.
Yay!
It's not weighted, but it's perfect to practice on. And I still have all my old books from like middle school and high school. And so I've been practicing Eric Satie, Gymnopédie number 3.
Yep. I like that one.
Some sonatina. I forget what the name of it is.
I have 2 books full of sonatinas, so I've probably played it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's been fun. I don't know. I don't really have any goals this year except to just slow the fuck down and prioritize myself. Because I have not been doing a lot of that, and it really showed, like, at the end of last year, as you know, I just kind of crashed and burned, and I'd really like to prevent that from happening again.
True. We always like that. We always like not crashing and burning.
Another thing that happened, my life is so fucking great. Let me tell you another great thing that happened. I finally paid off my car, speaking of which. So I totaled my car last year. It was mental health related, but I haven't told the full story yet because I'm just not really there. But I totaled my car, and I didn't have gap insurance.
Oh, I lost you again.
Oh my god. Okay.
It's funny whenever this happens because it all comes back at once. So it's like I hear nothing, and then I hear my car. Oh!
I don't even know. I keep getting interrupted in my own story by my own microphone.
I know.
It's very
it
annoying.
sucks.
I cannot wait to get rid of this setup. But yeah, I had a $14,000 loan that I was not covered for.
Okay.
And so I have been paying it back like $300 a month for over a year. And I had like I do want to be transparent. My parents helped me out with the final little chunk.
Hey, I mean, at that point, I think that's fine.
Because, I mean, part of me wants to be like, I paid off my car, yay me, but also I'm like, oh, my parents helped me out, so, like, I don't deserve recognition. But also, like, I'm really proud of myself for doing that and for accepting their help. Like, that was really hard, but...
That's true.
And it's been a really big load off my mind, like, for my mental health. It's been really good to have that paid off, because that was just... You know how that is.
Yeah, I was about to say when you said you paid off your car, I was like, oh, don't say that. That's dangerous because I did that once. I came home, I was all excited, like, my car is paid off. And that night I got in a bad accident. But then I was like, oh, wait, you already did that part.
Yeah, I don't. Well, the thing is, in case it isn't clear, I have not had a car this whole time. I've been paying off a car that I no longer own, that nobody owns. It was totaled.
Yeah, which is even worse. Like, why am I still paying on this thing that no longer exists?
I have a motorcycle, but I don't ride it much because it's cold lately, and also I have anxiety, and so some days I just don't feel up to riding it, even though my commute's pretty short. And so, I've just been carless for a year. And I'm still carless, but now at least I'm not paying off a car that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Let's move on into the episode, shall we?
Okay,
We're back. It's a new year. We're back with some fresh topics. Today's your topic, right?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of is. I mean, it was very, like, a loose idea, but as I have put it a little more together, because I suggested doing an episode on family, and Christina said, and I'd figured, that it can't be the first time that she's done an episode on family. But when I was thinking about it and thinking about the things I particularly wanted to talk about, I would like to talk about how your family responds to their own mental health more than, like yours or the topic in general. Because I have a lot of thoughts on that.
What's been going on? What's been going on to make you think about this recently?
I've totally lost it.
All right, so you can't tell, but hours have passed.
We're in the future now.
We're in the future, yeah. Thanks to the magic of editing, we skipped past a bunch of technical difficulties, and we're back with a new recording setup.
Yeah, it sounds crystal clear and beautiful.
Yeah, we're working on it. We know that there's much to improve in that area.
Yeah, I'm trying to sit closer to my microphone now.
Oh my God. Yeah, I feel like people who come and listen to the podcast, like if they go back to the very beginning, they're like, what the fuck am I listening to? And then they keep listening and they're like, when does this get better? Spoiler alert, it doesn't. It just keeps getting worse.
It never does.
What do you want from us though? Like, we're both two mentally ill, broke people with no education.
Right? I know when I discovered that about the microphone, at first it just made me feel, because you know the editing and recording stuff, and I obviously don't. And I was just like, oh, geez, it's just another way I feel like she has to pick up after me because I don't know. And then I was like, wait a minute. I was in a band for 4 years. I know how microphones work. I was just being self-conscious.
Okay, I thought of a new idea for the podcast.
Yes.
Every time we start complaining about ourselves or being negative towards ourselves, we have to set a timer for like 2 minutes, and if it rings, we have to stop.
Okay.
Not now. We're done now.
Yeah.
But, if that happens in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was afraid you were going to say that we had to talk for 2 minutes nicely about ourselves every time.
Oh, no, I wouldn't do that shit to you. I'm not going to make you say anything nice about yourself.
Oh, phew.
I'll say nice things about you, though.
Aw,
Lauren, your hair looks amazing today.
She doesn't know it, but it does.
Yeah, when we had our break in which I went out and purchased a whole new setup, Lauren dyed her hair.
I did some blue streaks to go with the kind of like pink and reddish highlight streaks that I have going. So
I haven't seen a picture of it yet, but I'm sure it looks incredible.
No, because it's not even dry yet. But I am just getting closer to a My Little Pony every day.
Love that for you. All right, what are we talking about today, Lauren?
All right. So today we're talking about family. I figured it's appropriate because everybody probably just spent a lot more time than they usually do with family. And also, and she confirmed it, I was like, Christina's been doing this longer than me. I'm sure family has come up.
Well, we've done a few episodes about family over the years, but every one of them is different, and every one of them, I feel like, barely taps into whatever topic relating to family we chose. So, like, a lot of different angles.
We definitely haven't bounced it off each other. So this
we
is a new topic for us. Yeah.
We're still learning about each other, after all.
I realized when I brought it up that my family has some very unique views towards mental health. Like, they have different ways of dealing with it. It's interesting to see it in them and how they deal with it. So,
did any of it come out recently, or did something happen to make you think about this extra?
I don't think anything in particular. I just thought it'd be a good idea to talk about family. And I was like, well, we do happen to be a mental health podcast. How can I relate it to that?
With fucked up families.
Yeah.
I say that with love.
And it just made me think of things like, it's no surprise to me now, but it's just interesting ways that they deal with this.
So one thing that I ask every guest that comes on, at least when I interviewed guests regularly, was, how did your family approach mental health growing up? And I don't remember if I talked to you about it when I had you on as a guest on episode 44.
Yeah, I don't remember us having a big discussion about it.
So. Yeah, I don't think we really talked about it. And then, of course, since you've been co-host, you've shared a little bit about your family.
Yeah, but I feel like we've talked more about our family dynamics than specifically.
So are you talking about families' attitudes towards their own mental health and like how it affects you? Or let's get into your question a little more. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what you mean.
I mean, I'm happy to talk about their reaction towards mental health in general or towards the things that I've dealt with. But one thing in particular that I was thinking about well, now I'm kind of doing it backwards, but it will probably come up that my family really likes to cover these things up. It's nothing they like to talk about. It's airing their dirty laundry. And I realized that even the people that are blatantly dealing with issues, then it's just kind of like they might know it, but we just all agreed to not talk about it.
See, I feel like on the opposite end of that. I always assume everyone is talking about my dirty laundry while I'm not there. Not that I really care as much anymore, but I don't know. We have so many people in our family and everyone is always dealing with a crisis. So I feel like it's just a revolving door of crises. And like one moment I will be in the spotlight with my crisis and then the next moment it'll be someone else. But it's just like never ending and it's a lot to keep up with.
Gotcha.
So kind of different from what you're experiencing.
Yeah, it's almost the opposite.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a family acting like that. Two things examples I was thinking of in particular.
Yeah, tell us a story.
So the second time that I went to treatment, I think the first time then I kind of adopted my family's attitude and was like, let's not tell anybody, let's not discuss this. This is my own little secret. And the second time then, especially because I think my mom was having a hard time with it, and she has 4 sisters, and there's a couple she's particularly close to. So, she hadn't had the go-ahead before, but I was just like, I'm fine. If you let some people know, you don't have to hide it, but...
Sorry, in case listeners don't know your history, you had never told your mom about your eating disorder prior to treatment, but you had other stuff that had been going on in college, I remember.
Yes, there was like panic attack started.
And they knew about that because they like got you in a treatment and all that shit.
Because they took me to the ER for it. Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't that like your brother's wedding?
Yeah.
Yeah. I forget which episode you told that story on.
Me too, but yeah, it was a fun time for all.
Yeah.
But so I got a message from one of my cousins, and I'm not particularly close to my cousins. And the second time I was in treatment, and she was just like, I just wanted to say, I'm really impressed with you for, just like having the drive or whatever to go through that and to try and help yourself. And then she like tells her whole story. She was like, when I was in high school, she's like, I basically became pretty severely anorexic at some point. I was forcing myself to run in the snow for hours every day and like barely eating anything and losing a whole bunch of weight. And she's like, and I've gotten where I can handle it now, but it's still like part of me and everything. But when she's telling me that story about high school, I'm thinking, no shit, girl. I remember the family reunion when I came, and I was like, well, okay, that's what she's dealing with.
Yeah, well, it's so interesting when someone in your life tells you they're going through this. It's kind of a shock because we're used to talking to people every day about this stuff online. And what you just described is such a common situation. Like so many people do that, but no one talks about it in real life. And even when it's obvious someone is, anorexic in her case, which I hate to generalize, but sometimes it is obvious.
Yeah.
That something's going on. It's weird.
At most, I mean, like I said, we were at a family Christmas when I saw it, and at most, then maybe they knew, maybe they just thought that, she grew up and as you do, you like sometimes lose some of like, they call it baby fat, which I hate.
Yeah, and I'm trying not to like judge people by their weight so much because you never know reasons why someone gains or loses weight. And I hate talking about, my family grew up talking about people's bodies, and so like I notice people's bodies and compare, and I'm just trying to do less of that in general. But yeah, sometimes it can indicate that something's going on.
Yeah, and so I don't know if they knew and were just like joking about it, or if they didn't knew and were joking about it, but that's what the rest of the family, is just like, oh, ha ha ha, gotta get some meat on those bones, and like things
God.
like that. And I did not bring anything up and was completely silent and just watched because I was just like, I know what's going on. This is a fucking tragedy, and giving little teasing remarks is not going to help.
No, were you afraid that they were going to shift the attention to you if you said anything?
Yeah, so I actually, at this family Christmas, I'd kind of been the one the year before that everybody was talking about like that too.
So like a little revolving door of your own.
Yeah, it was like, it had been like probably one of the absolute lowest points for me that year. So my family still didn't know until 10 years later, but but it was a point where it was more obvious to the outside world.
So then the next time when you went and they were talking about her, was the first thought you had like, oh, this is how they were talking about me last time, and I didn't even know it? Ugh. That's the worst feeling. I look at pictures from old events like, 8-10 years ago where I was like just starting to get into bulimia. And I don't know, I look at pictures from weddings and stuff, and all I remember is like the bathroom at the venue and like what it looked like, what the tiles looked like, what the snack table looked like, and like the paper plates, the detail on the paper plates. Like that's all I remember. But then I look back at the pictures and everything's normal. And I remember like having conversations with people, but I don't remember what we talked about because all I was thinking was like getting away to throw up or to sneak another plate. And now I'm thinking like, did they notice any of that? Like, it's so obvious when I think about it, but like people don't talk about it. Tying it into the theme, like people don't talk about it. And so now I'm at the point now, 10 years later, like I'm 30. I now speak openly about my mental health. And at this most recent family reunion, I kind of talked to people about the podcast, but I didn't share any details. I'm still kind of nervous talking to people about it in real life. Yeah. And some of them said they'll listen. And now I'm just like, I'm curious, like, are they going to talk to me about it in real life now? Because I kind of always hope that people will. Yeah. In the past, of course, I've been embarrassed about it and I don't want to talk about it. So. Yeah.
And I don't know how I feel about that because there's some people that I've shared this with that I know listen all the time. And then there's some other people that I shared it with because I was okay with them hearing, but they haven't talked to me about it. So I don't know, like, have you listened? And like, My friend that I brought up, who I was in her wedding, and now she's expecting a baby very soon. I just went to visit her this past week, and I can't remember something that was said because I'm positive I told her I was doing this, and I was just kind of like, I wonder if she's listened to any episode, especially the one where I was just talking about her.
Yeah. Sorry, I just sent a text to my partner to come get Fang because he's starting to make noise. So the door will open in a second. Yeah, it's always really weird when you have a platform like this to think about people listening, especially when it's family. So, sorry.
That's all right. That's
Here he is. Take him, please.
Take him.
Oh my God. Okay. Thank you. Well, I don't even remember what we were talking about.
No, but I have another example of my family pushing everything under the rug as well.
Oh, please, yeah. I want to hear more because apparently this is so foreign to me. My family just leaves everything out to dry.
This was my mom's closest sister in age. They're a little more than a year apart. I had known that she was at a point of having trouble with alcohol sometimes, but I didn't know to what extent. I just knew, like, everyone kind of knew and didn't talk about it, that she wasn't totally in a healthy spot as far as how much she would drink at, like, get-togethers and things like that. She probably took it too far. But I didn't know for sure until I lived with her for a while. She had kind of like an apartment off the main house, and I needed somewhere to kind of park my butt in my mid-20s.
As one does.
Yes. But I was like, dude, she is a full-blown alcoholic. I mean, she can go through, like, far too much wine for someone to not wake up feeling the effects the next morning, which is a big sign.
How was your relationship with her? Like, was she happy to have you? Or if it were me, I would be like, oh, man, now I have to hide my drinking because someone's going to come live with me.
No, because I don't think anyone was admitting to her face that it was a problem, so I don't think that she thought it was a problem.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, yeah, that's trippy.
I'd come home at night, she'd have a glass of wine, and she would pour me one, and we'd sit there and we'd talk for a while, and like I said, I saw how often she was refilling and how, slurred and everything she would get by the end, and I knew that she woke up just fine in the morning and went to work every day, and I was like, this is not okay.
I can think of a few examples in my family, too, where something was definitely going on, but people just don't talk about it. I mean, my mom has been on the podcast before and talking about her own opiate addiction. Like, she has a history of eating disorders and alcoholism, but she was addicted to opiates when we were kids. And I remember being in the car the day that she almost got us in a wreck.
Oh my God.
And I remember pulling over. I remember my parents arguing, and I remember going home, and then my dad and I took her to the hospital. I don't know why I went with them, but it was kind of brushed off as like, Mom needs some rest. And then I think the rest of the week, they just didn't talk about where she went. I think they told us she was at a spa or something. I mean, I knew she wasn't at a spa, but
yeah,
I didn't, and then she was home and everything was fine. And, now that I am an adult who has gone through addiction, I know, oh, she was detoxing.
Right.
And that's not an easy process. And I have so much respect for her for doing that. And like, I'm mostly really curious because no one talks about it to this day. Like, I haven't really talked about it with her a lot. And that's just in my immediate family. When it comes to extended family, it's even more hushed up. Like, I have an aunt or not an aunt, like a cousin on my mom's side who killed herself. No one talks about her. I know all my grandparents struggled with depression, but no one really talked about it until my dad got diagnosed with depression himself. And then he started just offhandedly mentioning that we have it in the family.
Okay.
So, yeah, I guess I can relate more than I initially thought.
Yeah, and as you were telling that story, I don't know why this one just like flew out of my brain until now. To bring it a little closer to home, well, it was when I was like 9 or 10, because this is when, as I found out when I was 20, that my mom had been planning to leave my dad to like pack up the kids and go to her parents, which I did not find out until 10 years later when they actually split. But also at that time is when, because my dad also has some alcoholism problems. And I never know how to... Yeah.
There's some issues with alcohol. I don't know.
Yeah,
saying alcoholic feels really harsh, and I don't like that label.
Yeah.
But also...
I guess if I had to say anything, I'd say most of the time I would consider my dad a functional alcoholic, because I believe he definitely is an alcoholic, but it usually has not impeded his life. But at this point it did, because I remember at least twice when my mom woke me up in the middle of the night, like I said, I'm 9 or 10, and there was a telephone only downstairs and in their bedroom. So she'd wake me up and put me in their bed because she figured if anything happens, then at least I'm close to a phone. And
oh, shit. Like, if they're fighting or something?
No, she just woke me up, and was like, I got to go get your dad. And 10 years later, I find out she was picking him up in jail. Yeah.
I was like, why would she put you next to the phone? What was that? Oh, my God.
Because he was drinking with his buddies and then drove home and got caught.
Oh, that's wild.
I know. The fact that I did not know this till I was 20-something.
And did you ever talk to him about it?
No.
Oh, my God. Now, here's a question that we can put out there.
Yes.
Do you wish that your family talked more about this stuff, or are you kind of happy with the way things are?
For me right now, I would not want it to change, just because I've gotten to a point where it feels more uncomfortable to share things with them. And also they've proven that they don't really know how to react. So there's that. But sometimes I wish that I could have been someone that like grew up in a family, like from the time I was like 4 or 5, knew like, oh, I can tell my parents like, I'm feeling really shitty right now and I don't know what's going on. They'd be like, let's try and figure out what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, when you say that you don't know how they'll react, I can assume they've reacted negatively in the past.
Yeah, it's mostly... So, my therapist assigned me a book.
Ooh, do tell.
It's something like Adult Children of, Emotionally Immature Parents.
Ooh,
and
I might want to read that.
Yeah, that's why I said it. I was like, it's an interesting thing. I'm not very far. But the idea is, that just kind of like... My parents, when I was a tiny little kid, they didn't know how to deal with emotions, so they didn't know. Get off! Sorry.
Meatball. Our cats
Yeah.
are being regular terrorists
I
tonight.
know. Yeah.
This episode is all over the place, but what can you
This
expect
episode
at
is
this
brought to
point?
you by cats.
Cats and faulty technology, the bane of our existence as a podcast.
Yes.
Anyway, back to your alcoholic father.
Yes, so adult children of emotionally immature parents. That was it. And basically just saying, like, my parents didn't understand when they were adults raising children how to be in touch with their own emotions. So kids feel that when they're growing up, and they end up fucked up because of it.
So I have a theory that a lot of people from that generation struggle with that. Mm-hmm. And I also have a theory that each generation gets slightly better at that. So, like, my dad's parents, I guess, had depression. And obviously, they never talked about it. My dad didn't get diagnosed till his 50s, and now he talks about it, but he didn't always. And now I, the third generation, have a mental health podcast, and I talk about it all the time. It's like each generation, and I am this way because I grew up with my dad as a positive role model, like, in that field. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Seeing that it is okay to talk about these things. Not that we ever, like, I mean, I don't know. My dad in high school was, like, really close to me. Like, he was, like, my safe person. And he would, like, he was the one who, when I went to treatment for the first time, like, he was the one who was like, it's okay. You're going to get through this. This is normal. Mm-hmm. It just made everything feel very normal. And I think it's interesting now that I'm 30, I feel like I'm closer to my mom because she and I are so similar.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I say this like I'm super close to my parents and we talk about this stuff all the time, but we really don't. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
And I think that's kind of normal. I mean, even if you have a family that's open about it, I think it'd be the abnormal ones that are just, like, so in tune and maybe enmeshed, which is its own problem.
Yeah, I guess I still have a hard time drawing boundaries with them. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that they're able to hear some things that I have to say, and then it turns out that they're not.
Yes.
And I've exposed myself, and they haven't been receptive to it, and now it's just like, fuck, I'm exposed, and this is painful, and I'm not getting the reaction I wanted. I think that happens a lot with family. Yeah.
So I wanted to go back to something you said a couple times. I was just curious. You mentioned, like, your grandparents had depression, and I was just wondering...
Allegedly.
Okay, because I was just wondering, like, what looking back were the signs? Because I would have no idea. Like, I can't imagine thinking, like, did my grandparents have depression? I'd be like, I don't know. They just were grandparents.
Well, and we talked about this a little in our Girl Interrupted movie review.
Yes.
But they all smoked and drank a shit ton back then.
Okay.
And I really do think it had something to do with mental health. Not Definitely. A hot take or anything.
Yeah, like a lot of times that's to deal with.
I mean, again, I don't really know that much about them. We don't really talk about it, but I know that they were all heavy drinkers, heavy smokers. They all died of cancer. I've never met any of them. They all died before I was born. And so this is all conjecture. Conjuncture? Jesus, I can't talk right now. But yeah, I know that about them. Mm-hmm. And I know in my bones that the depression is a part of me and has been since I was born. And so when my dad says that, like, it's in the family, I don't doubt it. But I also feel very alone because it's like I've been given this inheritance and there's no one around who can tell me, like, where the keys are, you know? There's no one around who can tell me that this is normal, that we've been feeling like this forever.
Yeah, like, I can see just kind of feeling just, like, left with it. Like, here you go. Here's your depression. Enjoy.
And the thing is, the more that I do talk to my family about it, the more there's people who can relate. And I'm not just talking my immediate family at this point. Like, when I went to my cousin's wedding in April on my mom's side, I talked about it on the podcast. Shout out to my cousin Caitlin, who listens to the podcast. Woo! She found me at the wedding and she was like, yeah, I listened to the podcast, and I don't know. I've had a lot of positive experiences like that where family members come up to me and they tell me they can relate or they really got something out of it. And I'm like, that's really cool. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, the whole point of this podcast is to start the conversations. And I think the hard part is to keep those conversations going in real life. Like, this
Yeah,
could be a fun
I
little
agree.
experiment for us. I mean, I know you said you wanted to keep things the same. When you've been raised not talking about it.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask you. Like, do you think it's possible to teach your parents?
I think that would be really, really hard because
Like,
I feel
how
like,
do you have these conversations?
because, sometimes I don't really have a choice and I've had to have those sorts of conversations with them. And occasionally I feel like I've broken through to them in those cases, but it only lasts, sometimes it only lasts, I feel like, as long as the conversation. Sometimes it feels like maybe like a week or so. They're like, oh, yeah, I get it, what she's talking about. But then they just go back to their own thinking. I'm like, never mind.
Because I know a lot of our listeners can relate to this. And I know that closeness with parents, or any relatives really, is something that people want, but also sometimes it's just not possible. And so, I don't know, it helps me to think like, okay, I can't change the way my family is. I can't change how other people react, but I can change how I talk about it. And at the risk of exposing myself and like feeling awkward and maybe possibly being shunned, although that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so easy for me to talk about this stuff.
Us talking about it now made me think, like I said, I haven't shared this with any family or anything like that, but I kind of wondered, I was like, maybe I should do some sort of test sometime, because I would consider, like, especially on my mom's side, like a group of cousins that I remember, like playing with and getting along with when we were kids. I was like, I would consider sharing it with them and, saying like, please don't tell anyone else in the family because they don't know, just because I think of it as we were all the same age growing up in the same sort of family. So we might understand, even though, yeah, even though we don't talk about this with each other, I feel like I bet everyone kind of gets it.
And I think it is easier to share if someone else does it first. We talked about this on the vulnerability episode.
Oh, absolutely.
Sometimes, like, one of you has to be vulnerable first if it's going to continue. Mm-hmm. And the benefit of having a mental health podcast is you can just pop a link over.
It's really easy, yeah, to be like, hey, want to listen to this episode?
I did that. Did I tell you? I sent,
No.
Oh my God. So my sister Caroline, who has been on the podcast a few times, we did an episode recently where we're just chatting about family again. And the episode was prompted by my cousin Ben asking us a question, like, how have we changed since 2019 or something like that. Okay. And so we talk a lot about family in that episode. I sent that episode to the cousin group chat. Because I had mentioned to them briefly at the family reunion that I had a podcast, and I talked about it to some of them without going into too many details. So I just was like, fuck it, I'm going to send them the link. I don't know if any of them listened. I don't know if any of them are listening now. If you are, hello. I promise you I don't hate our family. I don't know where
I might hate my family.
Oh, well, now you definitely can't.
No, just kidding.
I'm going to take that voice clip and like put it at the beginning of this episode.
So if they ever do listen, the first thing they'll hear is, I might hate my family. I'll be like, this sounds great.
Honesty, man. Honesty. It's really hard to be honest when you know that someone might be listening.
Yeah, that's why I don't want certain people to listen. I feel like it would make me a less open host, I guess. I would
Honestly,
say less honest.
I even felt guilty telling that story about my mom because I know she listens.
Yeah.
I feel like if family is involved, I can only be so honest. And I'm trying to abolish that, but it's hard.
That's how I felt too, going back to the one friend that we talked about before, when I realized at her place that I'd told her. I was afraid suddenly, like, oh my God, I talked about her like an episode or two ago, and what if she heard it? And I don't think I said anything bad, but I just was like immediately like nervous and scared because I talked about her.
Yeah, but also this is your truth, and you shouldn't censor yourself.
And yeah, I think that is why I'm very careful about who I share it with, because I have thought about that. Like, if I share it with these people, is that going to be in the back of my mind every time? And I'll have to think first, like, okay, but you don't want these people to know this.
I was just thinking about how you were talking about kids who are raised with parents who don't talk about this stuff. Like, they don't know how to talk about it. Yeah. And then I was thinking, like, can you imagine having a kid and having that responsibility to like teach them how to be emotionally healthy.
Oh my
I don't know
gosh.
if I could do it. Like, I was thinking, if only one of us had kids so we could bring more to this conversation.
This is why we need to still get my friend Stacy to come as a guest. Because, I mean, her kids now are, I don't know, the oldest has got to be like 25 or something. And the other one's, I don't know, like 20.
I would love to hear about, like, because I know Stacy has kind of a fucked up past herself.
Yeah, and I mean, when I first met her, then her kids were still pretty young, and I never felt like she was hiding anything from them, and they've dealt with their own stuff, and, you know, she's been there for them because she's been there before.
Now, here's another question. Do you think growing up where parents talked about everything and didn't hide anything and were very transparent, do you think that could have an adverse effect as well?
Oh, I absolutely feel like it could be.
Again, we don't really have experience.
Once again, why I would like her there, because I don't know necessarily, I don't live in their house, but I do feel like she found a good balance.
Yeah, I feel like this should be a pickle pull almost. We're going to do a pickle pull about boundaries next week, I believe. So
yes,
if
that'll
you're
be
listening,
a fun one.
The question is on our Instagram. Go answer it. We could use your input because there's a lot of experiences we don't have.
We haven't been through everything.
We've been through a lot, but not everything.
Not quite everything.
I feel like I'm an expert in certain things that will never, ever be of any use to me.
Trying to think what else. How else can I talk about my family?
I mean, I don't know. It's so weird to me that you don't talk about anything to them.
Yeah, and I feel like most of my examples have come from my mom's side, because I do feel like they were the more concerned with appearances. Like, no one talks about this stuff on my dad's side, but sometimes I wonder if they even, like, just because they don't even know, like, they all just think, I'm fine, right?
I think it feels weird, like, talking about the way that they see mental health. When you don't talk to them, it's like, how do you know? Like, it's kind of like the example at the beginning of the episode with your cousin. Like, they are probably going through a lot of the same shit.
Yeah.
But you don't know. And so I wish that I was better at asking those questions.
Yeah. And I guess my dad's family does hide it to some extent. Sometimes I don't know if it's more because they don't want to think about those times. But I also remembered my mom telling me my dad's oldest sister, because my dad's sisters are all quite heavy drinkers and partiers. And so,
sounds like there's a lot of that in your family.
Yeah. So, but it was a long time before I realized that his oldest sister, I was like, oh, she doesn't drink. And then I find out, like, okay, she's been sober for how many years? All right. And I didn't know why still until I think my mom told me, you know, when she used to be an alcoholic, then at one point, I think she was in a really bad, did she have a stroke and get in a car accident? I don't even remember now. It's been so long since she's talked about it. But I always knew that, like, her one hand just kind of, like, hung limp and didn't really work. And my mom's like, yeah, that's why her hand's like that, because...
Oh, my God.
Because her alcoholism gave her a stroke. Yeah.
That's terrifying. And people still didn't really, like, talk about it?
No. I mean, no one offers her drinks or anything like that. They all know that, but... Yeah, I didn't know the whole history.
See, I love finding out that shit about family members, because then I know that I have something in common with them. Mm-hmm. Like, when I find out something fucked up about people, it's a relief to me.
Yeah.
It's like oh, thank God.
Like my one cousin, you know, she related to me at the one point, but I remember that year that I said I saw her and I knew, then I didn't know how to bring it up, but I was just like, oh my gosh, someone else in this family understands what I've been going through for however many years.
Yeah, because you can feel like the only one when no one's talking about it. I feel like the thing that people don't talk about these days in this generation is weed. Yeah. I feel like a lot of people I know smoke, you know, at least on my mom's side of the family. I know that cousins partake, but no one talks about it. And on my dad's side, I don't think anyone does. I don't know.
We mentioned this in a past episode as well, but, like, I knew my dad's sisters and brothers were all pretty heavy drinkers and partiers, like I said, but I did not know for a long time that when they all disappeared and went out to the barn together, that they were all sharing a joint.
Oh, my God.
I know. I was like, oh, I don't know why you hid that one.
That's so funny. I know Brett's parents smoke, but growing up, like, he wasn't allowed to. And then, you know, he realized that they were all smoking at the same time, but they were all hiding it from each other. And I thought that was really cute. We smoked with him the other day. It's just so weird to me because my parents would never.
Yeah. My best friend from elementary school, as adults, like in our 20s, we were all back for some like holiday in our hometown. And I know I went over to her house. And at this point, yeah, her parents were totally open about it. Her mom didn't smoke, but apparently she was very good at growing. So,
that's a whole other ball game.
I know. So she made that her little project, and and her dad and his friends all smoked, and they had no problem or whatever. And so, of course, all knowing this at this point, then they just got some out and passed it around. And at one point, and this sounds like it could be a creepy comment, but it really was funny when her dad was like looking at me, and he's like, I remember you like 8 years old running around here and spending the night, and now we're smoking weed together. I was like, I know, kind of trippy, huh?
That sounds nice, honestly.
I know, it was kind of funny. We all had to laugh about it.
With my family, it's a little bit different, but sorry, I feel like I'm bad at words right now. I feel like I have nothing to bring to the conversation. I just felt like I needed to address it.
It's just because your family is more open about this and you don't have as many secrets in the closet.
Yeah, I don't know. Just feeling pretty low energy.
Yeah, we didn't really prepare. I was trying to think of like, well, what's a question that I could ask then based on the things we've talked about?
I feel like even if we just show up and shoot the shit, it's fine.
So what you were just recently talking about, though, was how people treat weed. I am kind of curious. It's becoming legal in more places. Now it's legal in my state. It's been legal in Michigan, where my family pretty much all lives. So I'm starting to wonder, like, is there a point where we can just, like, accept, like, my mom would accept if I just, like, I just popped an edible and, yeah.
I've kind of started, like, dropping it into conversations here and there. Like, first, I talked about it on the podcast, and she listened.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know. She knows. Like, she knows. But, I want it to get to the point where you can just blatantly say it. And it's like, why is it weird to say, oh, I'm going to go, take a few hits of this joint outside? But it's not weird if you're like, oh, I'm going to go grab a beer from the garage.
Well, yeah, that's how I was thinking about it, is especially now you can't even argue that it's illegal where I am or anything. I was like, I would call my mom and be like, hey, I just poured a glass of wine, but why can't I say, hey, I just lit up?
Every time you light up, call her and be like, hey, Mom, pouring a glass of wine.
Yeah.
I have been on the phone high so many times with my family. When I lived in Seattle, not only was I away from my family, but we were 3 hours difference with our time zones. And so I would call them at like 7 my time, and I would probably keep them up super late just because I would be high and I would just want to ramble. And sometimes I would be super emotional. Sometimes I just wanted to hear someone else's voice. But yeah, now that I think about it, it was pretty obvious. And no one's brought it up to me or anything, but I know that I've probably put some people in some uncomfortable situations.
Oh, I would feel, as far as my family, that it would be much easier to kind of test that out with my dad first.
What would that look like?
Sometimes I think that he has this idea that I'm more of a good girl, I'm making air quotes, than I am. So I don't know that he thinks that I smoke weed, but if I said I did, then I don't see him being like, oh my God. He'd just be like, oh, all right.
Yeah, he sounds pretty chill. I think it would be fine.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll have to do some field work and report back.
I know. I'm not near family, so I don't really go to a lot of family functions now. But if I was,
what the phone is for.
Well, yeah, but I was just thinking that'd be a way to do it. Then if I was at a function with my dad's family, I'd be like, hey, can I come out to the barn with you guys?
I have been more like open when I'm feeling anxious, like bringing it back to a more general mental health topic. I think I might have talked to you in person about this. I don't know if I said it on the podcast, how my mom has been using the word anxious a lot lately to describe herself. And I'm really proud of her for that. And I like to think that I had a part in that because I've been talking about my anxiety for about a year now, and I will straight up like go off by myself when I'm visiting with them and be like, I'm feeling really anxious. I need to, or I'll disappear and they'll be like,
Yeah.
oh, she's just feeling anxious. And so I don't know. That's one example where I feel like she's gotten a lot better with talking about it. Because anxiety was like, I feel like it was a new concept.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely felt like it was when I was dealing with it and my family was aware.
It's like you were saying, like, they just don't know how to talk about this stuff sometimes. And it's, again, we're young. Like, we don't really know what we're talking about. Like, I imagine people who are older listening to this and being like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. Like, we've all gone through this. But
yeah,
I feel like a lot of people from that generation don't know how to, like, they don't know what terms are being used to describe what they've been experiencing for years. And so when they discover that, it's like...
yeah.
Meet them halfway is what I'm saying. Because they probably don't know where to start either.
Like, I feel, also, like, you know, certain words that we just kind of, like, threw around, you can't necessarily, you know, there's things you can't necessarily do that with anymore. And that's kind of what I felt like I know with the anxiety piece is when I actually found out and they said, like, oh, you're having panic attacks. I was almost embarrassed because to me that felt like such a throwaway because at that time, then I felt like that's where someone would say, like, oh my gosh, I left for a couple hours and I got home and realized that I'd left the oven on the entire time. I had a panic attack over that. I'm like,
oh, yeah.
No, you just kind of like freaked out for a second.
Well, yeah, language
but that's
is always
how people
changing.
That's how people were using it. So it just sounded so like frivolous to be like, I'm having panic attacks.
Yeah, language is always evolving. It's hard to keep up with. And so, yeah, I don't necessarily blame them for not knowing how to approach this. And it just goes back to what I said, like, in some ways it is our initiative to start that conversation, which is scary. But also, if it doesn't feel safe, you don't have to. Yeah. You know, like with your family, there's a reason no one has been talking about these things because it's just not a thing. And to start talking about it all of a sudden might not be the best thing either. Like, you gotta ease them into it.
Like that aunt I wouldn't have just, you know, like brought up in some family function like, so we don't all know Aunt so-and-so's an alcoholic, right? What do we all think of that?
Yeah, I really need to be better about knowing how to talk to people about things because I tend to just like blurt out things that make people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Boundaries are hard. We'll be talking about boundaries next week.
Once again, boundaries are on the agenda.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you wanted to talk about in regards to this topic? I'm sorry I'm such a shitty co-host tonight. Sorry, listeners.
I thought of something else, but I feel like it's kind of like getting away from the family topic. It was just something you brought up.
I mean, listen, we pick these topics. We don't know if we'll stick to them.
Yeah.
The conversation could go anywhere.
We talked about some family. Maybe we'll talk about something else for the last 10 minutes.
Well, I had such a good time answering questions on our last episode that I kind of wanted to keep it going. Do you remember that we do have some leftovers?
I saw this earlier, the link.
Yeah, so my friend Shannon sent in 10 questions, and we didn't have time to answer them on the last episode, but I thought we could just kind of go over them. So I want you to pick a number between 1 and 10.
2.
2? Okay,
yes.
2. What is your least favorite word?
Oh.
So these are 10 random questions, but they're kind of like paired. So like one of them says, what's your favorite word? The next is, what is your least favorite word?
Okay. I feel like when it comes up, I know, but I can't necessarily think of what.
I hate the word uterus.
Okay.
I hate the word moist. But that's like everybody.
That's what I was first thinking. I was like, I could say that, but yeah, that's kind of like everyone.
Okay. What's your favorite curse word? I'm just picking these questions at random now. Okay. Shannon, I feel like I could do these better justice, but we're tired. I'm just picking at random.
Obviously, this is standard, but fuck.
Fuck.
I love to combine it into things. I love to be like fuck nuts and things like that.
If I'm trying to find a word, I'll be like, that fucking, and then just trail off.
I like to, come up with kind of like things that aren't actually like standard phrases, but me and maybe like my friends turn it into ones. Like for some reason, once we just started saying, fuck your grandpa.
Oh my God.
And that just became, when anything happens that you just want to be like, oh, stop that. Then you'd be like, fuck your grandpa.
Fuck. I've been saying Jesus a lot. I don't know why.
Was I saying? Yeah, I was. I was trying to remember, was it Jesus or was it Christ? But I know, yes, I was in a Jesus thing too.
I feel like in some ways it's taking it back,
Also, then you go, Jesus, fuck.
Yeah.
You get them both.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Doubly offensive. Ooh, it asks, what turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally? I gotta say, my surroundings. Like, if my surroundings are beautiful and artistic and just serene, that's when I feel most creative. That's why I like having my house as clean as possible at all times. And no, it's not possible to keep up with. And yes, it drives me crazy.
Yes. I would say music.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think there have been times in my car where I like to sing along a lot in my car, and sometimes it can be a song I've heard tons of times, and it could not even be a specific reason why, but I'm starting to sing along to it, and I'm just can't, because I'm just oh, I'm going to actually start crying.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure why it's having that effect on me, but...
I listen to music on purpose to trigger myself sometimes, really sad music.
Yeah, I've done that.
But it does have the desired results sometimes. It does, when I know that I need to do some writing or journaling, I'll intentionally pick that stuff. The question says turn you on creatively or emotionally, and I feel like part of that can be painful. Sometimes, when it just hurts so good, you're gonna get a lot of good art out of it.
Yeah. And I was thinking with the creative part too, the most frustrating thing is I feel like when I am watching live music, that is when I'm getting the most ideas of music that I want to write. But I'm standing at a show watching it, and I'm like, oh, I just want to be home sitting in front of my piano or playing on my guitar and writing lyrics on a page. But I'm watching the show.
The next question is, what turns you off?
Ooh.
You can be having a great, cathartic, inspiring moment, and then something happens, and you're just not inspired anymore.
When someone tries to tell you why you're feeling a certain way.
Ooh.
What I'm thinking of is, in particular, my mom is really great at doing this. If I say that I'm having a bad day, then she's like, oh, is it because blah, 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 blah? And she just, she immediately, there has to be a reason, and she thinks that she's got it right.
Ooh, yeah. And then you're like, oh, I don't know, is that the reason? And you think about it too hard, and then you ruin the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, and then at the end you turn around and you're like, maybe I'm just having a bad day, bitch.
Yeah. Similarly, I hate it when people don't let you feel your feelings. Like let's say I'm listening to a sad song and it brings on a lot of emotions and I'm crying and I'm depressed, and then someone comes in and they're like, oh, don't be sad.
Yeah,
I don't know.
hate when people tell you how to feel. Also, when you said that, I just want to name drop because there's a band I've been listening to recently called The Regrets, and they actually have an album called Feel Your Feelings, Fool.
Oh my God, I love it.
I get such a kick out of that title every time I see it.
Feeling your feelings is hard sometimes.
Yes.
I don't know. I think what's happening now is I'm really tired and I don't want to feel my feelings. And so I can feel myself closing myself off emotionally. Talk about a turn off. Physical exhaustion.
Oh my God, yeah.
I feel like when I'm tired, I can't make this podcast as well, and I can't feel my feelings enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like I can't accomplish even things I want to do. I'm just like, oh.
There's some questions about professions. I don't know if I want to talk about that right now. I'm job searching and it's stressful. What sound or noise do you love? I love and hate the sound of my cat meowing.
Oh yeah. I love and kind of hate when Pico has a snack and he just does the little lip smacky thing nom, nom, nom. I was talking about this with a friend recently where I was like, if that happened with a human, I would want to punch him in the face, but since it's a dog, it's cute.
Exactly. Oh my God. Yeah. Like when a person farts, it's disgusting. And then when a dog farts, it's like, oh my God, cute.
Yeah, that's
I hate
funny.
farting. I know, listen, I know it's natural. I know everyone does it. I know you shouldn't shame someone for farting, but when I hear someone farting, I'm just like, it turns me off so completely. I can't focus on anything else. It's like,
So that's a noise you hate.
yeah. Well, because, my dad farted a lot growing up and it embarrassed me. Now this episode is extra unpalatable. How do you recover from that?
I don't know.
All right. I'm not going to start the self-criticism timer.
Okay.
Maybe we should just end it instead.
But I do want to talk about the noise I hate because I realized I forgot to talk about this up top.
Please.
I am 99% sure that I experience misophonia, if you know what that is.
What the fuck is that?
Misophonia. So miso kind of like spelled like miso soup. Then,
That's what I was thinking.
yes, then phonia. But what it actually means is hatred of sound. And it's people that certain sounds like bother them to an extreme. So my big one that I've realized is people constantly sniffling. And I have a coworker that does this, and it's an open office, so everyone else has to be hearing it, but it obviously cannot bother them as much as me because for one thing, I straight up want to murder him every time that he's doing that. The only thing that I've been able to do is jam earphones into my ears and play white noise because music can stop, and I feel like the time when the music in my ear stops, that's what it's like.
God.
Yeah, and I mean, it creates the feeling, you know how your mouth kind of like waters extra before you're going to get sick?
No.
That's...
Really?
My
My mouth waters a lot when I like think about something delicious if I'm hungry.
Oh, well, I mean, I was going to say before you throw up, but I was like, well,
I know that feeling.
Okay, because I was going to say, I don't know if that doesn't happen when you, like, are doing it to yourself. I just know, like...
Oh, it does.
Okay, then yes, that's what it is. So it provokes, like, that physical reaction in me when I hear it. And, I mean, to the point of, like, I found out, I work from home on Thursdays, and I found out, you know, like, something happened so that this guy could not come into the office, and he also worked from home on Thursday, and he doesn't usually, and I was like, why the fuck couldn't that have happened on a different day? This was my chance to, like, be in the office with you out of the fucking office, and it had to be the same day that I'm already out. That's where I'm saying it is an absurd overreaction. And you know it, but you can't stop these feelings.
I'm just laughing at, like, your passion for this matter.
That's what it is. I mean,
Remind me never to sniffle around you. No, I'm a sniffly girl. I can't lie. I have allergies. But like, I know what you're talking about when it's just like a big old honkin', like, I'm not going to do it on mic, but.
No, I mean, that's one of the things that I'm just kind of like, I've thought of sometimes. I'm like, good God, does this guy swallow a gallon of snot every day? It's so gross.
Oh, okay, that's the word that I hate, snot.
Oh, that's a good one.
Meatball hates it too.
I was going to say, Meatball agrees.
We need to end this. This is off the rails. I don't even know what we're talking about at this point.
Yeah. Meatball
Oh my God.
he was in the other room, and he just walked up next to the chair just to come up and go, and then he just walked away. So yeah, I think that's the sign to end it. I think that's the sign to end it.
This has been Pickles and Vodka, everybody.
Yes.
We promise next week we won't talk about snot much.
Right. Much.
But yeah, we're happy to be back in the new year. And go answer the pickle poll about boundaries, and we'll see you next time. Hopefully with more rest. I see everything.
Ooh. All right.
All right, bye.